The world is a noun case. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a job description for a noun in a sentence. Is it the hero of the sentence, the one doing all the action? Is it the one just sitting back and receiving the action? Or maybe it's the one that owns something in the scene. That role, that's its case. And it pretty much dictates the entire meaning of what you're saying.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basics, the main ideas. Then we'll do a deep dive into that tricky little apostrophe S, and, just as important, when not to use it. And we'll wrap up with a couple of other cases to really round out your knowledge. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, first up, the big three. These are the cases you're going to see and use every single day. They're the absolute foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. So first, you've got the subject, which is technically called the nominative case. In our example, Lata is the one singing. She's doing the action. Then there's the object, or the accusative case. Here, Mr. Kate is the one being met. See? Pretty straightforward. But it's that third one, the possessive case, the one that shows ownership with that little apostrophe. That's where things start to get really interesting.
And that brings us to the main event, the possessive case and its partner in crime, the apostrophe S. I know this little punctuation mark causes so much confusion, but trust me, by the end of this, we're going to make it totally crystal clear.
We're going to tackle this step by step, nice and easy. First, we'll look at regular singular nouns. Then we'll get into the two different kinds of plural nouns. And finally, we'll cover some of those weird special cases and names that always seem to trip people up.
Okay, rule number 1 is the easiest one of all. For just about any singular noun, you show that it owns something by adding an apostrophe and then an S. Simple as that. It's Ram's house, not Ram's house. It's a week's holiday. This is the golden rule for singulars. But what if a name already ends in S? Like Jones. This is a classic grammar puzzle, isn't it? Well, here's the thing. A lot of the time, both Jones's house and Jones' house are actually considered correct. The most important thing, and what our source material points out, is to just pick a style and be consistent. That's what really matters.
Now, let's talk about plural nouns, because there are two simple rules to remember here. If the plural noun already ends in an S, like boys, you just add an apostrophe after the S. That's it. So you get the boys' camp. But if the plural noun doesn't end in an S, like the word women, you treat it just like a singular noun and add an apostrophe S. So the women's dresses. Easy, right?
And here's where grammar gets a little bit poetic. We also use the apostrophe S for something called personification. That's when we give human-like qualities to things that aren't human. So we can talk about nature's laws or being at death's door, as if nature and death are actual people who can own things. Kind of cool. Okay, so you've learned the rules, even the creative ones. Now it's time for the next level, learning when not to use the apostrophe. Honestly, knowing the exceptions is what really separates the pros from the beginners.
Points out that possessive pronouns, words like yours, hers, its, already show ownership all by themselves. They never, ever, ever get an apostrophe.
So the big takeaway here is you never write yours faithfully. It's always yours faithfully. Our source also highlights some other key exceptions. You don't use the apostrophe when you have the plus an adjective. It's the voice of the deaf, not the deaf's voice. And you don't use it when a country's name is acting like an adjective, like an Indian player's. And then you have these weird fixed phrases like, for goodness sake, that just follow their own special rule.
We are almost there. We're on the home stretch. To really complete your grammar toolkit, let's take a quick look at two other noun cases. They're not as common, but knowing them will give you a much fuller picture of how sentences work. So the vocative case is what you use when you're talking directly to someone. In the sentence, friends, be happy, the word friends is vocative. You're calling them out. The dative case, on the other hand, points out the indirect object, basically the recipient of the action. In She Gave the Prince a Bag, the bag is the direct object, but the prince is the one who received it, so prince is in the dative case. So, after all of that, what's the one thing you absolutely have to remember? It's this. A noun's case is its job, it's its role, its whole purpose inside that sentence. Whether it's the subject, the object, the owner, or the recipient, the case tells you exactly what that noun is doing.